More than anything, Dune, Prophecy is an origin story for the modern incarnation of the Dune franchise. Based on the 2012 prequel novel Sisterhood of Dune by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, the Max series has already given us a glimpse at the early days of Houses Carino, Atreides, and Harkonnen, all three of which are far from possessing the intimidating influence they later wield during Denis Villeneuve's recent films. On top of this, showrunner Alison Shapker's series has also revealed the surprising origin behind a key power wielded by the Bene Gesserit, and this week's episode takes things one step further by redefining one of the most recognizable phrases in the franchise's lore. Originally included in the first of Frank Herbert's Dune novels, even people who don't follow the sci-fi behemoth have probably heard the iconic line "Fear is the mind killer." One of the first lines in the Bene Gesserit's litany against fear in the series, the phrase appears everywhere in connection with traditional Dune lore, including David Lynch's 1984 adaptation of the novel and one of the first scenes of Villeneuve's remake. As such, it only makes sense that Dune, Prophecy would use its ancient focus to explore the origins of the iconic saying in its most recent episode, though the series' explanation of Herbert's line is still darker than most people probably would have guessed. In order to understand how Dune, Prophecy is redefining the franchise's classic phrase, it is first important to reiterate how fear is the mind killer typically operates within Herbert's canon. Taken at face value, the line refers to the debilitating effects of terror on an individual's ability to think clearly, underscoring how fear erases humanity's ability to function and clouds reason with paranoia and suspicion. Within the context of the full litany against fear, the iconic Dune phrase also means a person must endure their fear in order to let it go, with the ultimate goal being for an individual to embrace their inner eye until they are self-actualized. The phrase has resonated with countless people struggling with anxiety and self-doubt since Dune was released, which is why it should come as no surprise that the line continues to be a fan favorite associated with the franchise. Aside from the line's inspirational qualities, however, fear is the mind killer and its place in the litany against fear also contextualized the greater power struggle that is constantly unfolding within Dune's main story. The litany's goal, which is the ascension of an individual above their fears for the purpose of self-advancement, illustrates the Bene Gesserit's greater mission in Herbert's universe, the creation of the Kwisatz Haderach, or the Bene Gesserit's perfect intergalactic ruler. Dune, Prophecy has already explained the early stages of the Sisterhood's plan to achieve this end, and the Bene Gesserit's famous incantation strengthens their resolve to pursue their idealized monarch. In Lynch and Villeneuve's adaptations, we see both Paul, Kyle MacLachlan, and his mother, Rebecca Ferguson, muttering the phrase after Paul puts his hand in the Reverend Mother's pain box, underscoring how the litany's most infamous line lends the Bene Gesserit strength during even the most agonizing times. This week's episode of Dune, Prophecy suggests this line may actually be as much a warning as it is an inspirational quote, however. After almost all the Sisterhood's trainees succumb to nightmares on Wallach 9, Tula, Olivia Williams, attempts to understand her sister's visions by guiding them through a drawing exercise meant to help them recreate and understand their shared trauma, but it doesn't take long for this effort to quickly backfire. After the trainees slip out of Tula's control and begin feverishly scribbling visions of the reckoning Mother Raquella, Kathy Tyson, hinted at in Episode 1, Tula finds her own reasons for fear while reviewing the sketches with Sister Avila, Barbara Martin. Identifying the same looming, godlike figure in each of the trainees' final drawings, Tula observes that the being instills a paralyzing terror in whomever it contacts, even going so far as to theorize that this terror can kill those who succumb to it. While still a theory, this suggestion is supported by plenty of evidence in the series so far, most notably by the similar nightmare Kasha suffered prior to being burned alive by Desmond Hart's, Travis Fimmel, power from across the universe. Had the fear induced by this dream given Hart a gateway to scorch his rival for the Emperor's, Mark Strong, ear, it would explain the self-righteous soldier's impossible reach. But this development also completely redefines everything we know about Dune's most famous phrase. Rather than simply being a personal mantra meant to hone the mindset of the Bene Gesserit and eventual Kwisatz Haderach, Dune, Prophecy is arguing that fear is the mind killer also possesses a literal connotation in its universe. Those who cannot endure the terror of Desmond Hart's mysterious power are doomed to burn, raising the stakes for a young sisterhood that seems woefully unprepared to face this new, elusive foe. On one hand, Dune, Prophecy's update to Herbert's line can't help but feel just a little anticlimactic, grounding the empowering phrase in a more literal interpretation. But the series' added context is also perfect for establishing the full scope of the Bene Gesserit's origins. While Shapker's series has thus far illustrated the material aspects of the sisterhood's rise to prominence, detailing how Valia Harkonnen, Emily Watson, has expanded the Order's numbers and influence with the Great Houses, Episode 4's focus on the very real threat of fear within the Bene Gesserit's ranks sets up the establishment of the Order's most classic phrase without saying it. Tula's suspicions open the door for the sisterhood to develop their litany against fear in response to the threat posed by Desmond Hart, allowing Dune, Prophecy to further realize the core beliefs of the Bene Gesserit's harsh beginnings. Unfortunately, Dune, Prophecy Episode 4 also confirms that the Bene Gesserit of this time period are in no condition to combat the rising tide of fear in the Imperium. Aside from the younger sister's nightmares, Tula herself is haunted by her own vision of murdering Sister Emmeline, Aoife Hines, at the end of Episode 4, and the Great Houses themselves are terrorized into falling in line at Episode 4's Landsred. From a narrative standpoint, however, these shortcomings are equally exciting, as they set the Bene Gesserit on the path to conquering their fears and developing the most popular mantra in Dune. Therefore, Episode 4's update to the franchise's iconic line not only raises the stakes for the well-being of Dune, Prophecy's characters, but it also provides the Bene Gesserit with the perfect enemy to help them realize their full potential throughout the future of the series. Dune, Prophecy is available to stream on Max in the US. New episodes stream every Sunday night.